Today we will have a very brief lecture about two of the main types of waves. We're going to talk about transverse and longitudinal waves. Now, the reason why there is a different type of wave that you can talk about is you have to watch which way the particles are moving relative to which way the energy is moving. And the reason why this is of interest to us is that ultimately we want to talk about some real wave phenomenon in our lives, such as sound and light. It turns out that sound has what we call a longitudinal wave style, and light is a transverse wave. So let me make the distinction between those two types of waves today. If you've ever been to a football game or another large stadium event, you may have participated in the wave. Well, it turns out that the stadium wave really is a type of wave, in a sense. In a stadium wave, you stand up and down or sit down. The wave goes to your left or to your right. The point is that your motion and the wave motion are actually at right angles to each other. You go up and down, the wave goes left and right. That's called a transverse wave. The transverse wave is the type that we've already been looking at. If you take a rope or a spring and you shake it up and down, the wave energy goes left and right. That is a transverse wave. The transverse wave can be represented by a sine wave curve, but that's kind of a graphical method. If you look, say, at that rope that you were shaking in the previous picture on a microscopic level, you might see the individual atoms and molecules moving as it does in the bottom graphic there. So the particles are moving up and down. The energy is moving toward the right at right angles. So as I said, a transverse wave is the one that we've already introduced in the previous two lectures. It is it's represented by the sine wave, and all the features that we learned earlier, crest and trough, wavelength, amplitude, those are all applicable to transverse waves. Again, the reason why we're interested in transverse waves is that one of the phenomena that we encounter every single day is light, and light is a transverse wave phenomenon. All the other electromagnetic spectrum waves, radio waves, microwaves, infrared, ultraviolet, X-rays, gamma rays, are also transverse waves. So it's really important for us to learn about transverse waves. If you play a musical instrument, you may also deal with transverse waves if it has something like strings that vibrate back and forth. So you pluck the string. On this picture, since the guitar is kind of standing up, you would pluck the string left and right, but the wave energy travels back and forth. So that's a transverse wave that you're making with your fingers and your string. But what it produces in turn is a sound wave. And it turns out that the sound wave is a different type of wave. It's what we call a longitudinal wave. So here's the difference. If you have a transverse wave, you shake up and down, you move the particles up and down, the wave energy goes left and right. Okay? So they're at right angles to each other. But in a longitudinal wave, the particle motion, watch this. I'm going to push back and forth, and the wave energy goes back and forth. In this case, it's just going one direction and makes it stop. But in real life, that would bounce back and go back toward the hand. So that's a longitudinal wave. And it's, as you can see, it has a different particle motion. So when the particles vibrate back and forth along the same plane, parallel to the direction of the motion of the energy of the wave, that's a longitudinal wave. And the reason why we're interested in longitudinal waves is that represents how sound moves. You can't take air molecules and shake them up and down. They're not connected to each other, but you can push them back and forth. Now, you notice two features of the sound wave shown on this diagram. There's a very dense area of the coils of the spring. That's called a compression. And then there's an area where it's not very compressed at all. The spring's coils are far apart. That's called a rarefaction. A wavelength of a longitudinal wave would be just like a wavelength on a transverse wave. It's from one point to the corresponding point on the succeeding cycle. In this case, it might be a little harder to measure. This diagram has it measured from center of compression to center of compression. You could also probably easier measure it maybe from the end of a compression to the end of a compression. But the point is that it is possible to measure the wavelength, but it's a little more tricky. And what's really hard to do is to measure the amplitude by just looking at it. On a sine wave or a transverse wave, the amplitude is how high it goes or how low it goes from some equilibrium point. Well, this doesn't have highs and lows. What it has is dense areas and not very dense areas. So the amplitude is actually a measure of the particle density. And that's not something that you can just glance at and figure out like it is with a sine wave where you might be able to overlay it on a graph. Here's a moving compression or longitudinal wave. If you look kind of in the center, you'll see a little red dot shaking back and forth. Particle motion is left and right. Wave motion is to your right. So the wave motion and particle motion are parallel to each other in the same plane. That's a longitudinal wave. You'll see those kind of denser areas passing along. Those are the compressions, and the less dense areas in between are the rarefactions. So that represents a sound wave, and that's why we're interested in longitudinal waves. Now you can take the longitudinal wave and translate it graphically into a sine wave so it resembles a transverse wave. And little machines will do that. So for example, if you're in band and you want to tune your instrument, you probably go to this instrument, or maybe you have an app on your phone where you play your sound and it'll show you little sine waves. They may not be as nice and regular as this one because this represents only one wave, whereas your instrument probably is going to be playing several different wavelengths at the same time. So it might be a little more mixed up. But the point is that the waves that your musical instrument are producing are actually compression or longitudinal waves, but the instrument that you're measuring graphically interprets that as a sine wave. And that makes it a lot easier to measure things like amplitude and wavelength. There are more complex waveforms. So for example, if you were to look at water molecules, you could see that they more or less move in a circle, and they don't move in equal circles depending on how far below the surface of the water it is. That's a more complex waveform, and we are not going to be discussing that. If you ever took earth science, you might have learned about earthquake waves. There are longitudinal and transverse waves in earthquake waves, okay? But there's also a more complex surface wave. So particles can move in different patterns. The only two that we are going to be interested in for the purposes of this class are the transverse and longitudinal waves.